Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. We are very excited because today we are joined with Brian. Brian is a birth father who placed his child for adoption through Adoptions from the Heart and is willing to share his story. So, welcome, Brian.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's start from the beginning, Brian. Talk to us about when you learned that your partner at the time was pregnant and looking to contemplate options. When did all that start?
Well, we met in college. So Nicole is her name. Nicole and I met, and it was really shortly after we started school. I was home on Christmas break at my parents' house, and I get a text saying, "Hey, when you're back in Pittsburgh, we need to talk." And the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh, she's pregnant. And that's what it ended up being. So I came back to Pittsburgh and we had the conversation, and I pretty much told her, like, what do you want to do? If you plan on keeping it, I'll be here. If you want to look into other options, I'll support whatever decision you want to make. And she kind of held off on making a decision for a little while. And, we talked more and more, and then we started leaning into adoption quite a bit. And I think we talked to one couple before we even got with Adoptions from the Heart, and they ended up not being a good fit. So we contacted, I think Nicole reached out through email first, got in touch with Joan, and Brian was her partner at the time. And they came and kind of showed us a whole bunch of notebooks of families and parents, and gave us a whole lot to look through. And this is 2008, 9. So technology wasn't quite what it is now. So a lot of stuff was still done on paper. It wasn't all everything on the internet, and it was, DVDs to look through instead of everything being files and downloads and streaming and all that kind of thing. So it was a little bit different process than I'm sure it is now, but it was a really kind of fun but intimidating in a way.
I'm curious, prior to you actually making the connection to Adoptions from the Heart, what knowledge had you had, if any, of adoption, open adoption, what your options would be? How were you feeling at that point?
Honestly, I had no ideas about open adoption. Everything I knew from adoption was pretty much, the stories you see on TV of somebody growing up and looking for their birth parents, or, birth mom, birth father, or whatever. And there wasn't, I think at that time, a whole lot of information on open adoption. So that was really great to learn. And I think that was something we leaned into heavily, something we definitely decided we wanted.
What would you say about the role that Joan played for you guys, especially at the beginning in that moment with the education and giving you a space to navigate what you wanted to do with this pregnancy?
Well, Joan was and always has been and still is very amazing, and she's become a part of our family, but she taught us so much and kind of walked through every step and explained the situations. And really, I think she prepared us very well and gave us a lot of information that we were able to use in our decision-making process. And we kind of talked amongst ourselves about what we wanted. And, the open adoption obviously ended up being the best route for us, and it's been amazing.
Talk to us about that part. What does your open adoption look like? Talk to us a little bit about your child and all that good stuff.
Well, I think the rules back then were a little bit different than they are now as well. So ours is a little different than some of the other stories that we've heard. But we get to go see Mia as our birth child. But we get to go see her once a year with her parents, and they're amazing. Her parents have become our family as well. She's 15 now, so it's been a long journey. We're always very excited to go see them. It's always kind of a hard day, but it's always a fun day. It's, something that we really look forward to throughout the year. And Nicole and I still stay in touch, and, we text each other now and then and like, hey, we really miss them. We want to go see them and get in touch with Joan and set something up. And Mia's actually the one that she decides what we do and where we go. And I think that's always been a big thing for her. She's always been proud to be adopted, which was amazing for us and a little bit surprising because, I think when you first go through the process, you're a little worried about what's she going to think when she's older, and is there going to be resentment or questions? And it's never been that. So I think actually when she was in like third grade, I remember her mom telling us that she she has a notebook on Nicole and I that she took to school for show and tell, and she was so proud to show it off and so proud to tell all of her friends and the kids in her class that she's adopted. And then she was a little bit upset, and this shows her kind of princess side because there was like 3 other kids in her class that were adopted, so she wasn't quite so special. But that's always a funny story that's stuck with me, and it makes me feel really good.
What do you think is the secret to having a good adoption triad? Sounds like for you guys, you visit regularly, you get updates, birth mom, birth father's involved, the adoptive family's very welcoming to include you guys, everyone's very respectful of each other. What's the secret? How do you make that work even 15 years later?
I mean, I think you really said it. It's just all communication, and everybody gets along, and everybody puts Mia first and is there to support her and everything that she wants. And Nicole's family's come along. Her sister, her mom, her grandma have all come, and her sister's kids as well. My wife and I have 4 other kids of my own now. So we all go, and we've all become one big family. We all look forward to it. Everybody's happy to see each other, but communication is definitely number one. That's the thing that I would, I guess, really emphasize, is just being open and honest. And if you have questions, I think from either side, as long as you're addressing them respectfully, I think being open and honest is the best policy.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, it's so nice when we get to hear the perspective of a birth father. Adoptions from the Heart over the years have really tried to give this platform of AFTHtv to hear stories from folks, specifically from birth parents, because I think oftentimes their voice is not heard. And I think even today, we have more birth mothers than birth fathers that are willing to share their story. What advice would you give for another guy who maybe recently learned about an unplanned pregnancy, whether it's with somebody that he's with or just somebody, that was a casual thing? Because it can be hard. And I think one of the frustrations is like the lack of the willingness to learn about it. There's a sense of like, okay, I'm facing this unplanned pregnancy. I'm going to just make it work, and I'm going to just parent, right? What advice would you give to men out there that maybe have a little bit of an open mind of wanting to consider this? What would you say to them?
I think giving support of the birth mom is probably the biggest thing. Nicole and I really have been each other's support through this, and I think it's kind of kept our friendship going over the years, and obviously having the communication. But I think just me being there for her really meant a lot for her going through it. And I mean, it was hard for me as well going through it. I remember being in the hospital when Mia was born, and all 4, really 5 of us in there crying, her adoptive parents and her being the newborn baby, and then Nicole and I.
Yeah.
And it was a hard day, but I mean, I think support and really wanting to be a part of it, I think is great.
Well, and I think it's really valuable when a man can understand that you definitely are going to have your own feelings, your own opinions. This is ultimately, your right to decide what you want for your child as well as a potential birth father, but really taking the time, as you said, to talk to the birth mom, because in many ways it's going to hit her sometimes even harder, right? And so being willing to understand her reasons of why she feels placement may be the better option, at least being willing to understand it, regardless, putting aside your circumstances of what may have gone down between the two of you, but really understanding the birth mom side of things of why she initially called Adoptions from the Heart.
Yeah, I think it's probably 9 times out of 10, it probably is harder for the birth mom. And I know a lot of times adoption happens because the birth father isn't in the picture. And I know that's probably why you guys don't have a lot of birth fathers to lean on and get information from. But I think just being there and being a part of it, I do think it's important. And I think you really need to place the baby or the child first. And I think that's the key to really everybody getting along and having the most support in the best situation, the best outcome possible.
Well, and even in situations, Brian, where maybe the father is not involved for some reason, is, MIA, didn't know about the pregnancy or whatnot, our job as an agency is to make sure we properly search and notify, because we do want to include men. We want to have you be a part of the planning process to navigate what's in the best interest of this child. And I think from what I'm hearing from you, part of the reasons why you did what you did was you were able to put aside whatever was going on between you and the birth mom to say, what's in the best interest of my kid, right? What are we going to do for them? So I think the hope is that people will hear these stories and recognize, like, Adoptions from the Heart is not here to take your child. We want to be here to help provide the counseling support for you two to navigate what you want for your child, but you want to be open to listening and learning and educating yourself on all of your options. But please know that as social workers, we're here for both of you. We can always have a separate social worker for birth mom and birth father if something's going on where you guys can't align.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to reinforce that. And Joan has been amazing for us for the last 15 plus years. I've never felt any kind of pressure from her to do or to say or to, I've never felt any type of negativity. She's really amazing, as I'm sure everybody else in the system is just as amazing as she is.
It's funny you say that. The other day I was talking to a birth mom who placed many years ago, and she said that one of the reasons why she decided to move forward with this agency was she felt like the social worker was so not pushy. Like she wasn't somebody that kept calling her saying, hey, like, have you picked a family? What, like, she just kind of gave the education and then sat back and let her decide what she wanted to do. And having that space actually reinforced her commitment to this, and she felt comfortable moving forward. So it sounds like it's similar to what Joan has done and been there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. She definitely gave us our space and let us make our decisions in our time. And there was never any kind of pressure, no timeline on it. I mean, obviously, you got a due date that, there's somewhat of a timeline on it, but I've never felt any kind of pressure from anybody at Adoptions from the Heart. Everything's pretty much been on Nicole and I.
That's great. That's wonderful. And that's what this is all about. You guys are there to kind of navigate what type of open adoption plan you want. It sounds like for you chose a family that was very much on the same page in what type of openness you all were going to have. And it does sound like you're all very respectful and you know your boundaries, but you're also able to be there to love Mia. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Wonderful. Well, Brian, again, thank you so much for being willing to share your story. You're creating such an impact on our community. Just to hear a birth father share his experience is so helpful for other folks who are considering building their family, as well as other birth parents who are still trying to navigate whether or not this is the right path for them. So thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. And we're hopeful that the future will look wonderful for Mia and the rest of your family.
Yes, thank you. I hope so as well. And hopefully I can give a little bit of insight and help somebody out and help them make the right decision for them.
Absolutely. And if there's ever anybody out there who does want to connect with a birth father individually, I already see you shaking your head, Brian. Adoptions from the Heart would be happy to connect you with Brian if you just want to lean on him for some more individual support as kind of a mentor through this. So please feel free to get in touch with any Adoptions from the Heart office, and we can get you in touch with Brian.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you guys. Tune in to future episodes, and thank you for hearing our stories.